Hi everyone, welcome back to my video. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who joined my live stream on Monday night. It was so much fun. I enjoyed myself so much being able to interact with people live and talk with you guys. And my panel guests were amazing. It was just a lot of fun. Keep in mind, it was my first live stream. I needed mods, didn't have them. I have them now. So every live stream going forth, I will have my mods. I also want to do time frames for time frames for how long people are on. That way we can recycle people, because there were so many people waiting backstage to get on, and I wasn't delegating the time well enough, and I'm going to try and do that more. So I'll get better at this as I go along. I'm really trying. It was so overwhelming, but I think I got a hang of it. And I know I mentioned my stance on Chilli the night of my live stream, and my stance became even greater once my live stream ended and I noticed that Chilli was live streaming. And I wasn't really going to watch because I didn't want to vomit that night, but I went ahead and watched a few minutes and ended up watching the whole thing because he enrages me so much at this point. He has found another victim to leech off of. It is pathetic. He sees somebody going through a tragedy and immediately has to attach himself as if he's somebody important, as if he can do anything for this family. He can't do anything for anybody. And he's only doing this for himself. I think it's great he did put up the GoFundMe for this girl's family. But then he did his Chilli thing. And he did a fundraiser under his name as well. Supposedly for the family. But we all know what happens when Chilli does self-promoted fundraisers. I mean, that's not a secret. What makes me the most angry is him leeching out of this family, reaching out to them, reaching out to family friends, asking this 13-year-old girl's friends, who, mind you, are the same age, 12, 13, 14 years old, to call him if they need support. Calling the mother, even though she's at the candlelight vigil, he's still bothering her, wanting her to talk on his live stream. And when she hangs up, he tries calling her back numerous times. That candlelight vigil was more important than being on anything with Chilli. But he wanted her on there because it made him look like he was special. He was invested, and that they were wanting him to be a part of this. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting. It's vile the way he behaves. That's why I focus on Chilli more than I probably should. I want him to be known from coast to freaking coast so that he cannot do this to other people. It should have stopped with Tina Slay, and it should have stopped in Ironton, and it didn't, and now it's in West Virginia. It's got to stop. He cannot do this to people. With that said, I want to state a disclaimer before I start my video. No one, including myself nor Chilli, knows all of the facts to this incident, to what happened, or details. The difference to what I say and what he says are my own opinion and what facts I was able to find. Whereas Chilli just lies. With that said, if I do state something wrong, please do not hesitate to let me know in the comment section. I am going to give what I know, what I have found online. And I'm going to give my opinion. That's all. I'm not going to tell you I know this or I know that when I know nothing. I know what everybody else knows, which is nothing until the facts start coming out. So for everybody who doesn't like these Chilli videos, I am very sorry, and I understand if you don't want to watch. For those of you who are sticking with me to watch this train wreck run himself into a wall. Enjoy the video.
Sure that I keep the sources of who sends me information. Okay, I got it right here. So let me pause this and I'll bring you guys back over here. I'm a little nervous. I really don't want people to see any of my people popping up over here. How do I shut down my messenger? It's a chance we're going to take. So just so you guys know, this is about a little girl named Lainey Hudson who was walking home, walking with some, and she was struck by an off-duty Cabell County Sheriff's deputy, and she was killed. Apparently, the reports that I'm getting is the deputy was doing 75 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and the person who I've spoken to and the people who I've spoken to have told me that that particular stretch of the road, nobody should be doing 70, 75 miles an hour. Lainey was struck and killed. And the reports that I'm getting are that she laid in the street for 2 hours before any kind of aid was rendered to her at all. So if she was alive and there was a chance that she would have lived through it, instead of the responders, whoever the first responders were, caring for Lainey and her needs, instead what they did was they took Jeff Racer and they got him off the scene, because there are reports coming in and all kinds of people, because this is my hood, West Virginia, Ohio, Southern Ohio, Youngstown, all over that area right there. I have people, and there are reports coming in that he had left a bar previously, just moments earlier. And so we have a huge problem here.
So here we have Chilli starting out by claiming he's getting reports. So instead of doing his intermediate fasting, he wanted to make this live stream. Now, what happened with Lainey Hudson is absolutely horrific. I cannot imagine what the mother or the family is going through. I do know, having lost a child myself, losing a child is one of the worst things a parent will ever, or a grandparent, will ever go through in their lifetime. We are not supposed to bury our children. They are supposed to bury us. We should not outlive our children. They should be outliving us. My heart goes out to that family. But I'm not going to let Chilli profit off of this family's tragedy. The first thing he says is that he has information that nobody else has, and that it's absolutely killing him that he can't say. But that he doesn't want to reveal his sources. That's a red flag right there. Because if this information was that important, it would have already been in the cops' hands, and it would have been reported to the news. Because the news is on top of this. Any real details would have come out. Another thing Chilli wants to state is that the cop was going 75 miles per hour. Now, I can tell you for a fact, because I did call the police department to verify this, the black box in the patrol car, the cruiser, is still being investigated. Therefore, 3 days ago when Chilli did this live stream, they had no clue exactly how fast he was going. They won't know that until the black box has been investigated and they're able to pull that off. That's why they have these black boxes, just like in planes. These black boxes absolutely state the truth. Not Chilli, but the black box will. So for Chilli to automatically 3 days ago state that this police officer was literally going 75 at a 35 was wrong, because he has no clue. He's speaking as if he was there. He is speaking as if he knows anything about this case more than what we know, and he doesn't. And that's what pisses me off. He's trying to portray himself as this important person that people run to when they have a tragedy, because it's the only thing that's going to make him money. Because if he makes it look like he cares enough to help this family out, and to do everything he can. His subscribers are going to keep putting money in his bank. And that is the whole point of this. He doesn't care about this little girl. And he even says that, oh, well, it's about a cop. No, or it's not about a cop. He says this later on. It is absolutely about a cop. It's the whole point he's doing this is because a cop was involved. If it wasn't because it was a cop, why doesn't he report on other children being killed? He never does. He doesn't report on missing children, kidnapped children, killed children. He doesn't do any of that. But if it involves a police officer, you're damn right he's going to jump on it. And when it involves a family in mourning, he's going to do it. Because guess what? When a family's grieving that horribly, they are not thinking rationally. So when you get some weird creep guy call you saying, I can help you. I can help you. I'm an activist. I'm a constitutional law scholar. I studied law for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. That sounds good to them because they want the help. What they don't realize is they're getting somebody whose only talents are pathological lying and projection. That's why I'm doing this. I don't care what he says about me or what he thinks he can do to me. I could care less. Because I'm not the one out there trying to screw other people over for my own financial benefit while they are at their worst moments in life. Just this first part has me upset. And it just gets worse.
The exact same words, exact same thing. It's justice. It's this idea of justice in our country isn't happening because we, for some reason, I'm super frustrated because I know a lot more than I'm able to share with you guys right now. So I have all kinds of people in this area that are contacting me, that are giving me information that I haven't been able to sort all through it yet. So I want to make sure that we do this in the proper steps so that we can attempt to get justice for Lainey, so that we can try to get this person, now here's the thing. Now, whether he's a cop or not isn't really relevant. What is relevant is that there's a person who hit another person doing 75 miles an hour. And so we have to try to get justice for Lainey, for her life, because pretty hard. It's pretty hard. Pretty hard. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? It's we're living in this culture where these people over here, let me just explain a couple of things, and I could pull up a couple more videos to kind of illustrate it, but when you or I are involved in something that is catastrophic and tragic and somebody dies, then what happens is you and I are separated and our communication devices are taken away from us so that the truth can try to be extracted between all the nuance that life is. Because those critical moments after someone has passed, there's nuance, there's information that has to be preserved. People need to be separated so that we can question them and take away their communication devices so we can find out exactly what the true story is. Because if you allow people who are on this team over here, who are in charge of authority and cleanup, even, just say cleanup, of someone who's been hit by a car, then if the person who hit the person is part of that crew that's going to clean up and get the coroner and those things, then they're going to collude together, and that's what they're going to do here. That's what they're going to do. And so that's what makes me really, really sick. That's the reason why I'm doing this live right now, because, we really should try to get.
I wanted to touch base on one thing that I meant to touch base on in my last commentary, which is Chilli calling this area of the U.S. his hood. The West Virginia, Ohio, whatever area is his hood. Just because he knows a couple people. No, this is not his hood. He's never lived here. He didn't grow up around here. He has nothing here except a few people he claims to know very well. This is not his hood. It's ridiculous the way he lies. And what proper steps are you talking about, Chilli? The steps that the investigators are taking, because it's their job, not yours. You're not an investigator. The detectives and the investigators are doing the job. It takes time to investigate a crime. It takes time to investigate any incident. This is not a 1 hour block on TV for a series where the incident starts at the beginning, ends 5 minutes later, and then you've got 45 minutes of investigations, and boom, right at the end, they've got the answer for everything. This is not a TV series. It can take weeks to investigate anything. And how is this hard for you? Really, how is this hard for you, Chilli? Was this your child? Was this your grandchild, niece? Was it anybody to you that you really can say this is hard for you? No. You know who it is hard on, though? Her family. Her actual family. Not the parasitic leech that is trying to throw himself into the family, but the actual family. And I don't know what the hell you just tried to say at the end, but it made zero sense about electronic devices and people being taken away and then people separated to be questioned and investigated. What the hell do you think the investigators and the detectives do? They separate people. They talk to them. Why the hell do they need to take away their devices? I'm not too sure about that, but there's no need to. That's just, again, Chilli being Chilli. Okay. Yes, I did. He did mention in the last clip that before my commentary was that Lainey laid in the road for 2 hours. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. It's not in any reports. And when I did ask about this, they stated that was untrue. Again, I don't know. Even if they say it's untrue, I can't say for sure. However, it can take a while for the coroner to come out. And by law, no one can touch or can move the body. Like, they can touch it and, to do things, but they cannot move it, pick it up and move it until the coroner shows up, does his thing, and then says, okay, then they can remove it. Unfortunately, people have laid wherever they were killed for up to an hour and a half to 2 hours until the coroner showed up, depending on how busy it is. It's sad and it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. So he's trying to put this, why would the police just let her body lay there for 2 hours for no reason? Again, Chilli doesn't look up the facts. Chilli doesn't even try to understand why her body laid there for a long time. And I'm not even saying it was there for 2 hours, but let's just hypothetically say it was. If it was, that means they were waiting for the coroner. But he doesn't even bother to find this out or research why it would be there for that long. It's so frustrating the way he keeps repeating himself over and over again that he has all this information that he can't give out because people keep calling him and telling him all this information, but he hasn't pieced it together yet to be able to say it out loud. What do you need to piece together? If people called you and said, hey, this is what happened, or I found this out, or I found that, what's to piece together? Nothing. But then, if you notice, when he starts talking about stuff like this, he kind of trails off, or he takes a swig of water, or he immediately changes the subject. It's because he's lying. Chilli has clear signs, his body language, his facial features, the way he breathes. You can pick up where he's lying with all of this. And it's disgusting. The way he says that he is involved in this, I don't understand how he thinks he's so involved. He's not involved. He's not the family. He's not a friend of the families. He's nobody to them. How is he involved? He's not involved in this in any freaking way.
Businesses, and I know it's hard doing anything. So, but I want to get it as much to elevate it as high as we can with attention, because, I was talking to my friend Anthony the other day, who was sentenced to prison in Massachusetts. They sentenced him to 8 months in prison in Massachusetts for flying a helicopter. It's absolutely insane, but it's true. And I'm able to tell you that now because he just gave me permission to release his story. So Anthony's story of him getting 8 months in prison for flying a helicopter is going to come out. I'm going to get it all put together. I already have the videos done. I've had so much content done for Anthony for so long. I just don't have the proper tools to tell his story. I need his charging instruments and his paperwork and stuff like that. But what we're looking at here in West Virginia.
And here we go with Chilli talking about some supposed friend of his named Anthony, who was just sentenced to 8 months in prison for flying a helicopter. Now, Chilli pretty much says that all it was just flying a helicopter. It's all bullshit. And now he has the rights to tell this man's story because he gave him permission to. First of all, you don't need his permission. It's in the news. It's been in the news since 2018. Okay? There is no secrecy in this. Anything that Chilli's going to state is going to be lies and fabrications anyways, because everything that you need to know as far as truth and what happened in court and the investigation's all in the news. Anyways, so a Massachusetts man who claimed to have once been part of a clandestine Black Ops team was convicted by a federal jury in Worcester Tuesday of illegally flying a helicopter out of his backyard without a license. Notice Chilli left that out. Antonio, 62, often took off from his yard in East Brookfield, despite losing his license to pilot an aircraft in 2000 after he helped steal a helicopter from Norwood Memorial Airport. When the Federal Aviation Administration revoked Antonio's license for his part in the theft, he claimed the story was made up and that he was a member of the clandestine team of operatives performing black ops overseas, authorities said. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it clandestine. It's Stein. Mr. Antonio demonstrated a blatant disregard for FAA rules and regulations by operating a helicopter out of his backyard without a license on numerous occasions. Every time he did so, he endangered himself, his community, and the general public on the ground, United States Attorney Rochelle Rowland said. Antonio's conviction Tuesday of serving as an airman without an airman certificate, making false statements to federal agents, and attempted witness tampering followed a 3-day jury trial in the United States District Court in Worcester. He will return to court for sentencing on October 5th. This has already happened. He's already been sentenced. In February of 2018, Antonio bought a Robinson R-22 helicopter in Texas. Later that month, investigators learned he was flying the helicopter from his backyard, an acre-and-a-half plot off Podunk Road, surrounded by trees and neighbors, federal court documents stated. He flew the helicopter more than 50 times over the course of 6 months in 2018, prosecutors said. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, the path Antonio took when taking off and landing from his backyard was extremely hazardous. One person had called police in February of 2018, worried that Antonio was flying too close to a neighbor's backyard and swing set. The neighbor's grandchildren used that swing set, records said. Another neighbor took video of the helicopter and posted it on YouTube. A neighbor gave FAA investigators a picture showing Antonio alone flying, records said. The same month, East Brookfield police received an additional complaint Antonio admitted at the time of flying the helicopter. When an inspector met Antonio at his home that April, he told Antonio his license had been revoked in 2000 and that he could face penalties for flying, records show. Antonio presented a temporary airman certificate from 1985 and logbook endorsements from prior years, which an instructor had generated and which purportedly, according to Antonio, authorized solo flights, authorities said in charging documents. Those endorsements weren't valid, and the 1985 temporary airman certificate expires after 120 days. When questioned by FAA and federal agents, Antonio repeatedly made false statements regarding his eligibility to pilot the helicopter. The U.S. Attorney's Office said, among other things, Antonio falsely claimed to have not learned that the FAA had revoked his license and made false statements regarding his applications for a medical certificate, which is required in order to operate an aircraft. Antonio claimed the prior theft of the helicopter was a whole story made up. He claimed at the time he was a member of the clandestine, I had to write that time, team of operatives performing black ops overseas, authorities said. As neighbors logged days showing more and more flights, they took pictures and videos of Antonio inside the helicopter, records said. Antonio was arrested in May of 2019. At his trial, officials found that in addition to flying from his backyard without a license, Antonio tried to dissuade a witness from reporting the flights to authorities. Anyone choosing to intentionally ignore federal aviation regulations and requirements will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law, said Joseph Harris of the Department of Transportation's Inspector General's office. As demonstrated by today's conviction, we will continue working with our law enforcement and prosecutorial partners to support the safety and integrity of the nation's airspace. Now, this is what I found online as far as a government website. Basically, what I just read to you guys. But on November 18th, 2022, the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts sentenced Antonio to 8 months of incarceration, 1 year of supervised release, and a $300 special assessment. In April of 2022, a federal jury convicted Antonio of serving as an airman without an airman certificate, making false statements to Federal Aviation Administration, and attempting to tamper with a witness. In 2000, Antonio's airman certificate was revoked after stealing a helicopter from Norwood Airport. Despite not possessing a valid certificate, Antonio purchased a helicopter and made approximately 50 flights between April and November of 2018. Antonio also made false statements to FAA inspectors and attempted to hinder, delay, and prevent an airport manager from reporting Antonio's illegal helicopter flights. Sound like something Chilli would talk about? Of course he would, but he's not going to tell you the truth.
And for flying a helicopter is going to come out. I'm going to get it all put together. I already have the videos done. I've had so much content done for Anthony for so long. I just don't have the proper tools to tell his story. I need his charging instruments and his paperwork and stuff like that. But what we're looking at here in West Virginia is the same thing. Is there's going to be this travesty of justice. They're going to try to hide this. They're going to try to protect the cop. They're going to try to get witnesses not to come forward. They're going to try to get the bartender not to say how many drinks she or he may have served that deputy who was intoxicated, according to the reports that I'm getting from people. And I'm holding back. There's things I'm not saying because there's possibilities for justice. And so I want to protect those possibilities for justice. But I want to get this out there, and I want to get this as fast as we can to as many people as we can, because in the world of right and wrong is what we're talking about here. We're talking about someone's life who is taken away from them. If just so you guys know, if I do that, and God help me not to make stupid decisions. I had a drink last night for New Year's. We walked home. So, like, it's like, but if I do run somebody down in the street doing 75 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and that person is an innocent 13-year-old child, I'm going to have to pay the price for that. I'm not running off to another country. I'm not going to go hide in a bunker. If I run over a child who's 13 years old and they die, then I'm going to face that. If that means I got to spend 10 or 15, 20 years in a dungeon, and that's what has to happen, I won't be able to sleep at night anyway. I don't know if I could make it through it. I don't know if I would be able to. I don't want to think about it. But wow, that's a deep thought. That's a deep thought. Could you survive that if you ran over a 13-year-old child because you were drunk? Turning on your cop lights real fast. Woo, 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 woo. As you go zipping through a town. Could you not? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I could. If you got me too close to the edge, after I killed a kid, it'd be pretty tough for me to want to stay on Earth. I'll tell you that. It'd be hard for me. I'm a deep empath, so I feel the pain of this family now. Let me put their fundraiser back up again, just real quick, just so that if anybody's just coming in, this is a fundraiser for Lainey Hudson, who was.
Again, Chilli has no clue what's going on. He doesn't have some secret inside knowledge that nobody else has. This is just ridiculous, the way he's acting with this and pretending like he really cares. And let me give you a quick example of Chilli pretending like he cares, but he really doesn't. He just brought up this whole thing of if he hit and killed a 13-year-old kid. Did he talk about that child? Did he talk about how the family is? How the family would take it? How the family would care? How they would mourn? How they would be in pain? No. The only thing he talked about was how he would feel, how he would handle it, on what he would do. Not one time did he mention what it would do to the family. He only mentioned what it would do to him. And let's just get this straight. He would not turn himself in. He sure as hell would go into hiding. I mean, he is avoiding 2 open active warrants out of Ohio. He would. He wouldn't turn himself in. He wants to sit here and judge a police officer on his driving and state that the officer was intoxicated. And he wants to crucify this police officer for drinking and driving and recklessly driving and speeding way above the speed limit. And if, by all means, if this is the case, then yes, this police officer deserves every moment in prison that is coming to him. But we're not talking about the police officer. We're talking about Chilli. How he judges somebody else's driving, speeding, and whether or not they're sober.
Decide who you're going to call a bad person and who you're going to call a good person. And then these bootlickers, cop suckers, who got that cop stick all the way down their throat, down into their stomach, well, you shouldn't speed. Shut it. Shut it. Now, look, when there's tons of traffic everywhere, like there is right now, I'm doing the speed limit because there's too many people around. But when this is open road over here, why do I got to do 75? Why do I got to do 75? For what? For what? Because there's a posted sign that says that that's what I have to do? I'm going up to 85. I'm going up to 85. F you. F you. Really. He chose to do that, he said.
People for driving.
That goes into sob-sit territory. Like, come on, guys. A normal person doesn't need to be prepared to be pulled over.
Which, by the way, it's just ridiculous that we punish people for victimless crimes. If you pull someone over and they haven't hurt or killed anybody, why don't we give them an escort home and then say, okay, you have to go to counseling classes?
Yeah. Chilli is actively pursuing your right to get you guys in on the fight against frauditors. This whole victimless crime stick, there's no place for it in normal society. What are you fighting for? What are you defending, Chilli?
So you can learn how not to take any chances when you drink. But instead what we do is if you've had one or two drinks, then we arrest you, charge you with felonies. You have to go through at least a diversion program at the minimum, and then you may get SR22. You could even lose your driver's license. And that's the system we have in place now. So when you get pulled over, though, the very first step is you have got to fight. I showed you they're going to cheat Deborah Rogers. I showed you. I came right here, my face this close. I said, hey, they're going to cheat this woman. She hasn't hurt anybody. They tased her. They choked her. They electrocuted her. They knocked her unconscious. She lost consciousness. I'm showing you guys, Tahlequah, that's you. It's your town. It's your judicial system. It's your peace. It's your freedom. It's your truth. It's your country. I showed you where to look. I showed you, and look so Deborah does not belong in a dungeon. If there are lawyers in Oklahoma who want to help this woman, she was arrested apparently for contempt. But it doesn't matter. Who are the freedom fighters? I showed you where. A little bit of light on their case. And now let's go over just a little bit. So this is Deborah when she gets pulled over. Let me see if I can get the glare off there. Hello, ma'am. How are you? You went left to center.
What you actually just watched were two separate things. One of them is Chilli defending drunk driving, saying instead of being arrested and getting fined or ticketed and losing points on your license, that they should pull you over and then find you a ride home and give you classes. And at the same time, he's defending Deborah Rogers, who was pulled over and arrested for driving under the influence. Yet he wants to crucify a police officer who was allegedly intoxicated while speeding. The first thing you saw was Chilli speeding and laughing about it, purposefully speeding and laughing about it on an interstate. But yet he wants to crucify a cop for driving and speeding. And then second, of course, is the Deborah Rogers. He's defending her. He defends drunk driving, period. He doesn't think that it's an actual crime because no victims were involved. But you know what? Unfortunately, there are victims involved in many drunk driving or driving under the influence cases. Chilli is that police officer. If that police officer was drunk, take away the intoxication. Chilli is that police officer for the speeding and not caring. Chilli is that police officer. The only difference between Chilli and that police officer is Chilli hasn't killed anyone yet. He has not killed anyone yet due to his reckless driving. Adding to the speeding, I wanted to make sure that I also put in the video of him using his cell phone to broadcast something off of his laptop, which, by the way, is sitting in his lap in front of the steering wheel while he's driving down the interstate. Okay? He's driving down the interstate at a high speed, laptop in his lap, open and running, phone in his hands, recording or actually showing on a live stream what he's playing from his laptop. And he's usually high when he's driving. You can always tell by his eyes and the way he sweats, and his mouth is always dry. He's gross. But this is Chilli. Chilli pretending to give a shit about a poor 13-year-old girl that was killed by an undercover cop, or not undercover, but off-duty officer who was speeding and allegedly was intoxicated, while he defends Deborah Rogers for driving under the influence, while he himself drives recklessly every time he gets into his car. Think about that for a moment. Does he really care about that girl? No. Not one bit. He only cares that it was a cop involved. That's the only thing he cares about. His actions and his words speak that way louder than my own words can ever speak it. And I just showed you the proof. This is only part 1. I'm not sure how many parts this is going to be in. I'm going to upload them as I also work on other frauditor videos. But this, in my opinion, to me, is very important to get out. And I think I explained why in the beginning. I know this is a little more different than what I normally would do. I am talking way more than I normally do in my videos. But I don't know how else to make all of this clear other than to speak straight from myself and show you clips where I can prove he's lying or contradicting himself or being a hypocrite. Instead of taking one video and commenting on sections of it, I'm going to show you why he doesn't care about this poor 13-year-old girl who was killed. And why we have to stop him from doing this to other families going through tragedy. It's not fair that a family is already going through something this horrific, and then in the midst of it, they have Chilli leeching off of them. So, yes, part 2 will come sometime tomorrow, along with another frauditor video of somebody else. I don't want to say I hope you enjoyed this video because there's so much tragedy in it, not just with the poor 13-year-old girl, Lainey, but also the tragedy of Chilli. Because one day, there's going to be another victim like Lainey Hudson. We don't know how old they're going to be. We don't know whether they will be male or female. But I can say for certain that if Chilli continues to drive the way he's been driving and to behave the way he's been behaving, there will be another victim like her. Only this time it will be from his vehicle. With that, I will see you in the next video. Be safe. Take care. And I love each and every one of you.